Imagine standing in the middle of the scorching Iranian desert in the dead of July. The ambient air temperature is hovering at a blistering 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The blazing sun beats down mercilessly, turning the barren earth into a giant thermal oven. Every creature is desperately seeking shelter from the suffocating, relentless heat. Yet inside an ancient palace, 400 years before the Common Era, a Persian nobleman enjoys a frozen treat. He is eating a sweet bowl of rosewater, faluda chilled with fresh crystal ice. This was not a mirage, a myth, or an illusion. 24 centuries ago, ancient Persian engineers solved the impossible riddle of thermodynamics. Without electricity, fossil fuels, freon gas, or mechanical compressors, they produced tons of ice in the desert. They preserved massive ice reserves through scorching summer heat waves without melting. They achieved this feat using mud, goat hair, egg whites, and the freezing depths of outer space. Welcome to the astonishing lost engineering marvel, known as the Yakhchal. Today, we decode the brilliant ancient physics behind the world's first zero-energy refrigeration system. Modern humans view refrigeration as an exclusive triumph of modern industrial technology. We assume that keeping things cold requires buzzing electric motors and giant power grids. If the electricity goes out for 2 hours during summer, modern office workers panic as ice cream melts. But long before electric generators existed, ancient Persians turned desert physics into an art form. The word Yakhchal literally translates from Persian as ice pit, from the outside. A Yakhchal looks like a colossal mud brick conical dome rising out of the desert sand. These massive earthen structures reached heights of over 60 feet above the ground. But the visible dome was only half of the architectural masterpiece. Deep beneath the surface lay a massive underground storage cavern holding thousands of cubic feet of ice. To understand how ancient humans made ice in 40-degree desert heat, we must explore radiation physics. Most people believe that ice can only form when the ambient air temperature drops below freezing. But ancient Persian master builders understood a counterintuitive secret of the cosmos. They discovered a physical phenomenon that modern physicists call nocturnal radiative cooling. Heat is not an object. Heat is electromagnetic thermal radiation. Every warm object on Earth is constantly radiating infrared energy out in all directions. During a scorching desert day, the blazing sun floods the ground with massive solar heat energy. But at night, when the sun vanishes, something magical happens in the desert sky. The desert atmosphere has extremely low humidity and virtually zero cloud cover. The dry, clear desert air creates an open thermal transmission window straight into deep space. Outer space is an incomprehensibly cold vacuum resting at minus 450 degrees Fahrenheit. On a cloudless desert night, Earth's surface shoots its thermal energy directly into the freezing void of space. If you place a shallow dish of water in the desert at night, it radiates heat away faster than the air can warm it. Even if the surrounding desert air is 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the water's surface can drop below 32 degrees. The water literally freezes by beaming its heat into outer space. Ancient Persian engineers designed the entire Yakhchal infrastructure to supercharge this radiative effect. Outside the giant conical dome, they built long, shallow, rectangular water channels. These channels were engineered to be extremely wide and only a few inches deep. A shallow pool maximizes surface area, exposure to the night sky, while minimizing water volume. Next to these channels, they constructed massive east-to-west adobe shade walls. These towering walls cast long shadows over the shallow channels throughout the day. The shade walls prevented the desert sun from warming the ground where the water would flow. But where did they get fresh water in the middle of a bone-dry desert? This brings us to the second legendary Persian engineering marvel, the Qanat Aqueduct system. Hundreds of miles away in the snow-capped mountains, melting snow filtered deep into subterranean aquifers. Persian miners dug vast networks of gently sloping underground tunnels, stretching across entire territories. These subterranean qanats channeled icy mountain water beneath the desert without losing a drop to evaporation. The water flowed silently beneath the baking earth, staying remarkably cool in the dark. Just before sunset each night, operators opened valves to feed icy qanat water into the shaded shallow channels. As night fell and the stars appeared, the shallow water began radiating its heat into the freezing cosmos. By 3 in the morning, a pristine sheet of crystal ice formed across the entire channel surface. Before the morning sun could peek over the horizon, teams of workers harvested the fresh ice. They broke the ice sheets into blocks and carried them inside the Yakhchal before dawn, night after night throughout the winter months. Workers repeated this meticulous freezing cycle. They stacked layer upon layer of ice blocks inside the massive subterranean vault. Between each layer of ice, they spread thick beds of straw and dry desert reeds. The straw acted as an insulating barrier, preventing the ice blocks from fusing into an immovable frozen monolith. They occasionally poured cold water over the stacked blocks, so they would freeze into a colossal solid iceberg. By the end of winter, the subterranean chamber held hundreds of tons of pure glacial ice, but harvesting ice is only half the battle. Keeping it frozen through a 5-month summer is the real miracle. How did a mud dome in the desert prevent hundreds of tons of ice from melting in 100-degree heat? The answer lies in the supernatural thermal engineering of the Yakhchal's construction materials. Persian architects did not use standard clay bricks or common cement. They invented a revolutionary, ultra-insulating, waterproof mortar called saruj. Saruj was a complex composite material mixed with obsessive precision. It was formulated from sand, fine clay, limestone, wood ash, egg whites, and goat hair. When mixed and cured, saruj became completely impervious to water penetration. The woven goat hair acted as microscopic fiberglass reinforcement, preventing cracks and fissures. The wood ash and egg whites created an airtight thermal barrier with near-zero heat conductivity. The exterior walls of the Yakhchal dome were built up to 6 feet thick at the base. This colossal wall thickness created a massive thermal mass that resisted daytime heat transfer. The searing desert sun beat down on the exterior wall for 12 hours straight without heat penetrating inside. By the time the outer layer absorbed heat, the cold desert night arrived to radiate the heat back out. The inner chamber remained at a stable, cool temperature year-round. Now examine the third engineering genius incorporated into the Yakhchal, the Badger Windcatcher Towers. The tall chimney-like ventilation towers were built alongside or directly integrated into the dome. These windcatchers featured directional vents at the top, designed to catch even the faintest desert breeze. When hot desert air entered the top of the windcatcher, it was directed down into subterranean Qanat channels. As the hot air passed over the cold underground water, it was chilled and humidified through evaporative cooling. The cooled, dense air was then funneled into the bottom of the Yakhchal storage chamber. Inside the dome, any rising warm air moved upward toward a small vent at the pinnacle of the cone. The conical shape created a continuous natural chimney draft called the stack effect. Warm air was continuously expelled out the top, while dense freezing air remained trapped in the subterranean pit. The Yakhchal operated as a completely passive, self-regulating thermal engine powered purely by nature. It required zero fuel, zero electricity, and produced zero environmental pollution. Throughout the blistering desert summer, the city enjoyed an uninterrupted supply of crystal ice. Royal courts used the ice to preserve exotic meats, fruits, and perishable dairy products. Physicians used ice packs to reduce fevers and treat heat exhaustion in desert hospitals. Street vendors sold refreshing iced drinks and frozen treats to travelers and common citizens alike. The Yakhchal transformed ice from an impossible luxury into a public municipal utility. It was an astonishing demonstration of human harmony with environmental thermodynamic laws. Ancient Persians did not attempt to conquer or fight the brutal desert climate. They listened to nature, studied planetary radiation, and redirected natural energy flows. Now compare this ancient masterpiece of sustainable physics with our modern 21st century lifestyle. Today, modern humans consume massive amounts of global electricity just to keep our buildings cool. We rely on chemical air conditioning units that dump millions of tons of waste heat into our city streets. We burn fossil fuels to run mechanical compressors, contributing to global warming. Modern office workers sit in sealed glass towers, arguing over whether the thermostat should be set at 70 degrees. We construct fragile glass buildings that trap solar radiation like greenhouse ovens. Then we spend billions of dollars pumping artificial electricity into cooling machines to fix our poor architecture. If a city power grid fails during a modern heat wave, Our entire technological infrastructure grinds to a halt. We have become utterly helpless and dependent on artificial energy crutches. We forgot that true engineering intelligence is about passive design and thermodynamic harmony. The ancient Yakchal stands as a profound monument to sustainable human genius. Many of these ancient ice domes still stand proudly across Iran today after thousands of years. They remain standing through earthquakes, wars, and millennia of weathering. Modern architects and environmental scientists are now returning to study these ancient structures. Researchers are analyzing Sarouj mortar to develop eco-friendly, carbon-neutral building materials. Engineers are adapting nocturnal radiative cooling panels to cool modern skyscrapers with zero electricity. We are finally rediscovering what our ancestors knew over 2,000 years ago. The universe provides infinite cooling energy if we only have the wisdom to capture it. How can we apply the deep philosophical lessons of the Yakchal to our daily modern lives? The first lesson is designing passive systems instead of relying on brute force energy. In your career, stop trying to solve every problem by throwing frantic overtime and stress at it. Build efficient workflows, smart habits, and automated systems that run smoothly with minimal effort. A well-designed system preserves your energy, just like a Yakchal preserves ice in the heat. The second lesson is mastering your own psychological insulation. Sarouj mortar protected the ice from external desert heat through multi-layered composite strength. In a chaotic corporate office, build a resilient mental boundary against external stress and toxic drama. Do not let the external heat of workplace panic penetrate your inner sanctuary of calm focus. Fortify your mind with emotional Sarouj patience, perspective, and unwavering self-discipline. The third lesson is harnessing the power of natural cooling cycles. The Yakchal only made ice during the quiet stillness of the clear night sky. You cannot perform at high energy all day without dedicated periods of deep restorative recovery. Use your evenings and weekends to radiate away stress and recharge your mental batteries. Give your brain the quiet, dark space it needs to reset and maintain peak performance. The fourth lesson is channeling cool underground currents of knowledge. Just as the Qanat brought fresh water from distant mountains, cultivate deep long-term skills. Tap into foundational books, timeless principles, and deep wisdom rather than shallow internet noise. Deep underground knowledge will keep your career resilient when surface industry trends dry up. The fifth lesson is using natural chimney vents to release toxic emotional heat. When workplace frustration builds up, do not trap it inside your body until you explode. Create healthy communication channels to vent pressure and keep your core composure cold and clear. Look at the incredible contrast between mud and ice. Mud is ordinary, humble, and abundant in the desert dirt. Ice is precious, pure, and seemingly impossible under a scorching sun. Yet through human intellect, humble mud was transformed into a vessel for crystal ice. You do not need expensive, fancy resources to accomplish miraculous feats in your life. You only need curiosity, deep understanding of fundamental principles, and creative execution. Look at what human beings are capable of when we align our minds with natural laws. We can freeze water in the middle of a desert without burning a single piece of wood. We can build towering domes from earth and straw that endure for millennia. We can create flourishing civilizations in the harshest environments on Earth. You carry the same incredible biological brain that designed the Yakchal and Qanats. You are not a helpless creature trapped in an overwhelming modern world. You are an ingenious problem solver, capable of turning hostile constraints into legendary victories. The next time you pour an iced drink or feel the blast of an office air conditioner, pause and reflect. Remember the ancient Persian master builders standing under the starry desert sky. Picture the shallow channels glowing under the moonlight as ice crystals formed out of thin air. Feel the cool draft of the badger wind catchers flowing through the ancient earth. Appreciate the profound beauty of human intellect, working in sacred harmony with the cosmos. Let the story of the Yakchal inspire you to think deeper, build smarter, and live more sustainably. Stop relying on noisy, expensive brute force solutions to life's challenges. Look for the passive, elegant, and timeless principles that surround you. Build your life with the thick, resilient walls of virtue and patience. Channel the cool underground waters of wisdom into your daily work. Radiate away the unnecessary noise and heat of modern anxiety into the quiet night. Maintain your cool composure no matter how hot the external environment becomes. You are a descendant of the world's greatest thermodynamic architects and innovators. No desert of difficulty is too barren for your creative genius to conquer. No problem in your career is too impossible for your intellect to solve. Stand tall, like the majestic Yakchal Dome, rising proud against the desert horizon. Let your ideas endure through the heat of competition and the passage of time. Celebrate the triumph of ancient human knowledge over raw environmental hostility. Respect the wisdom of our ancestors who achieved the impossible with humble earth. Carry their torch of sustainable innovation forward into the modern world. Turn your constraints into your greatest competitive advantages. Master the hidden physics of your mind, your habits, and your environment. Build systems that work effortlessly while you sleep under the stars. Transform ordinary dirt into enduring monuments of human greatness. Stay calm, stay cool, and conquer your modern desert. Walk with the quiet confidence of an ancient master engineer. The universe is waiting for your next great architectural breakthrough. Think with clarity, build with purpose, and live with sustainable harmony. You have the power to create ice in the middle of the hottest desert. Never doubt the limitless capacity of the human mind to overcome impossible odds. Own your intellect, honor your ancestors, and master planet Earth. Reign supreme as the wise and timeless architect of your own destiny.